You didn't imagine it. Something shifted between you and that person, and it wasn't random. The connection that once felt so natural suddenly became strained. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly turned awkward and distant. They changed toward you, and you felt it in every interaction. What you experienced wasn't rejection from someone who stopped caring. It was intervention from someone who never stopped protecting you. God didn't allow that relationship to continue because He saw what it would cost you down the road. By the end of this message, you'll understand why divine love sometimes looks like divine distance, and why the most merciful thing God can do is step between you and what your heart wants most. There's a particular kind of confusion that settles in when someone you care about begins pulling away from you. You replay conversations, searching for clues. You wonder what changed, what you said wrong, or what you could have done differently. The questions multiply faster than the answers, and you're left holding fragments of a connection that once felt solid and secure. You didn't cause this shift. You weren't asking for too much when you hoped for consistency. You weren't being needy when you noticed the change in their energy toward you. What happened wasn't about your worth or your value as a person. It wasn't about something lacking in your character or your heart. The emotional whiplash hits hardest when you realize that someone you trusted with your feelings has become emotionally unavailable to you. Yesterday, they were present, engaged, and warm. Today, they feel like a stranger wearing a familiar face. You find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to recapture what you once had naturally. But the harder you try to bridge the gap, the wider it seems to become. This isn't coincidence or bad timing. This isn't about mixed signals or miscommunication. You didn't miss a sign that could have prevented this pain. God intervened in ways you couldn't see at the time. And this is where most people misunderstand what God was actually doing in that moment of relational separation. When God steps between you and someone else, it's not because He wants to see you hurt. It's because He sees what continued attachment would cost your peace, your purpose, and your future. Divine intervention often looks like blocked access to what we think we need most. God saw the trajectory of that relationship before you could. He witnessed how your emotional investment was growing while their commitment was wavering. He observed how your heart was becoming increasingly tangled in something that would never provide the stability you were seeking. God blocks what your heart cannot release on its own. Think of it like this. When a storm approaches, a wise captain changes course not because the current path looks dangerous in that moment, but because he can see the destruction ahead that his passengers cannot yet perceive. God redirects your emotional path not because your feelings are wrong, but because He sees the storms brewing in a future you haven't reached yet. The person who became distant wasn't necessarily a bad person, but they were becoming a dangerous attachment for your spiritual and emotional well-being. God saw how their inconsistency was creating anxiety in your spirit. He witnessed how their mixed signals were disrupting your peace and clouding your judgment about what real love should feel like. Sometimes divine protection looks like closed doors that you desperately want to open. Sometimes it looks like prayers that seem to go unanswered when you're asking God to restore what's been lost. Sometimes it looks like the very person you're interceding for becoming more emotionally unavailable with each passing day. But God's silence toward your requests isn't rejection of your heart's desires. It's preservation of your heart's future. He sees that what you're fighting to keep would eventually fight against everything He's building in your life. God didn't take something from you. He took something off you that was becoming too heavy for you to carry with grace and dignity intact. The weight you feel lifting, even through the sadness, is evidence of divine intervention. The clarity that comes after the initial shock is God's way of showing you what was really happening beneath the surface of that relationship. You start to recognize patterns you couldn't see clearly when you were emotionally invested. The anxiety that used to grip you when they didn't respond quickly begins to fade. The constant second-guessing of your own perceptions starts to quiet down. Your nervous system begins to regulate again because the source of instability has been removed from your daily emotional experience. Your peace left that relationship long before the person did because God was protecting it. The uneasiness you felt wasn't paranoia or insecurity speaking. It was divine discernment, alerting you to misalignment that your heart wasn't ready to acknowledge yet. God allowed your peace to withdraw first as a warning system. But when you couldn't heed the warning because attachment had clouded your judgment, He stepped in more directly. The sudden distance you experienced wasn't abandonment. It was extraction from a situation that was slowly compromising your emotional and spiritual equilibrium. This is where God's protection becomes clear. What felt like loss in the moment was actually liberation from confusion. What seemed like rejection was actually redirection towards something that can offer you genuine consistency and peace. The person who could pull away from you so easily was never going to be the person who could stand with you through life's deeper challenges. God saw their capacity for commitment, and it didn't match the level of investment your heart was prepared to make. He saw their ability to provide emotional security, and it fell short of what your spirit needed to flourish in love. The ache you feel isn't just about missing them. It's about grieving the version of them you hoped they could become, and the version of the relationship you believed was possible. But God doesn't operate in the realm of potential when it comes to protecting your heart. He deals in the reality of what is, not the fantasy of what could be. He removes access to relationships that require you to dim your light, second-guess your worth, or constantly prove your value. Divine love refuses to let you settle for connections that make you feel like you're asking for too much when you simply ask for consistency. God doesn't remove what's meant to stay in your life. What left wasn't your future walking away. It was the obstacle to your future being cleared from your path. The space that feels empty right now is actually space being prepared for something that can fill it with peace instead of anxiety, certainty instead of confusion, and genuine love instead of emotional turbulence. The confusion you experienced wasn't your fault, and the distance that opened up wasn't something you created through your actions or reactions. God allowed that separation to protect something precious in you that continued attachment would have slowly eroded. Your intuition, your discernment, your ability to recognize genuine love versus emotional manipulation. He preserved your capacity for real intimacy by removing access to counterfeit connection that was training your heart to accept less than what love should actually feel like. When God intervenes in relationships, He doesn't just see the present moment of connection or disconnection. He sees the entire timeline of where emotional investment leads when it's placed in the wrong person. He witnesses how attachment to someone inconsistent creates patterns of anxiety that begin to feel normal. He observes how your heart starts to accommodate behaviors and treatment that would have been unacceptable to you in a healthier emotional state. God steps between you and relationships that slowly teach you to doubt your own worth and question your own perceptions. If this message brought clarity to your heart, receive it as confirmation that God has been protecting you in ways you couldn't see at the time. The separation you experienced wasn't abandonment, it was intervention. The distance wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God saw what continued attachment would cost you, and He loved you too much to let you pay that price. Trust His timing, trust His protection, and know that what He has for you will never require you to compromise your peace to keep it.